Back here on Houston City Beat, Mike Acosta here with you. And now joining us is Gerald Sanchez from Legacy Sports Network. Find him at lsnsports.com. Gerald, what's going on?
Well, a lot of sports going on in the month of October.
Yeah, and football season is underway. What big game do we have this weekend?
Well, on lsnsports.com, we've got the Battle of the Oaks from Conroe ISD. Grand Oaks, the Grizzlies, taking on the Oak Ridge War Eagles, and it's going to be an exciting matchup because both teams are on the outside looking in their district race, and Oak Ridge, who is led by head coach Mark Schmidt, and of course Grand Oaks, they're the newcomers of that school district, and so it's going to be a battle between those two. Going to be fighting for that last playoff spot. And for the listeners that may not know or familiar, the first four teams in each district in the state of Texas make the playoffs in Texas high school football.
Man, it's been a long time since I've been behind the mic for some Texas high school football. It's always a lot of fun. And that name, the coach's name, it sounds familiar. Is that still the same coach over at Oak Ridge?
Well, he has been there for 6 years, and before then, he was at the Woodlands for, goodness, he played high school football when they were still McCullough High School, and then he was a longtime assistant under legendary head coach Weldon Willig, and then he took over the program in 2004 until 2017. So he's been around Conroe ISD for a long time, and he's wonderful to work with.
Yeah, that's where it was. I remember that now, and so he's certainly been around for a really long time. Just kind of give you some insight out there to the audience here in Houston City Beat. Gerald Sanchez owns and operates the Legacy Sports Network, lsnsports.com, where they cover high school baseball, high school football, all sorts of basketball. They cover all sorts of sports across the greater Houston area. So if you love high school sports, and we have a lot of people in the community that support high school sports, especially Texas high school football, you go over to lsnsports.com. Gerald also is one of the voices with the Sugarland Space Cowboys, and that's someplace that you and I have done some work. In fact, like we've talked about before, you and I have done broadcast for baseball. We've done football, high school football broadcast together for a long time. It's been a while since we managed to get in the same booth together, but we have done high school baseball, junior college baseball, Division I baseball. I don't think we worked a game. We both called U of H and Rice. And then also minor league baseball with the AAA Sugarland Club. And we've worked a lot of games together.
I certainly have. And, this past year, the Space Cowboys won the AAA National Championship. They won the Pacific Coast League, and then they won the AAA National Championship. They played that game in Vegas a couple of weeks ago, and they beat the Omaha Storm Chasers, which that's the AAA affiliate of the Kansas City Royals.
Yeah. So the Space Cowboys, the affiliate for the Houston Astros, they were independent ball for a number of years before being bought by the Houston club, and are now the AAA affiliate over there. And you've been able to see a lot of the talent come through the pipeline. I mean, I remember calling a couple of games over there too with you, and before Jeremy Pena came up to the majors, there he was in Sugarland.
Jeremy Pena had 3 home runs in one game against the Albuquerque Isotopes, which is AAA of the Colorado Rockies. And we saw Jake Myers play quite a bit in Sugarland before making his trip to the big club. And then there was also a lot of players in rehab assignments. Saw Jose Altuve and Yordan Alvarez. A couple of times this past season, saw Justin Verlander on the mound for the Sugarland Space Cowboys.
Yeah, and there's just been a lot of great. I mean, well, with the golden era that we've had with the Astros over the last several years, going back to, I kind of think that the golden era it was there. It was like the sun started to rise right around 2015, during that series with the Kansas City Royals. You could see the beginning of it, but of course it really took off in 2017. And, it was an early exit for the Astros this year. It's something that the Houston has not accustomed to seeing. Right now, we would all expect to see the Astros playing in October right now, so it's a little bit different.
Well, think about how far this franchise has come. When you and I were, when we first started as adults working in sports, and if we would have said, yeah, the Astros would make the league championship series, and we'd have had to have said back then the National League Championship Series, but league championship series, 7 straight years, we would have been like, sign us up.
Yeah,
and, well, here we are, and now there's the different level of expectation for the fan base and the organization, just because of the sustained success. And it is not to be taken for granted, and it's not to be taken lightly. You know, the Braves back in the 90s had that great run, and they won 14 straight division titles, only had 1 World Series. It is not easy to win in baseball.
No,
there hasn't been a repeat champion since the 2000 Yankees.
Yeah.
So that's going over 25 seasons.
Well, if you look at what the Astros have done, and you talk about the Braves teams where they had 1 World Series championship, and if you look at the Astros and go ahead and count in 2024 because they won another division this year, so why not, right? Despite the early exit, they still had a division title this year, which used to be the gold standard for the Houston franchise back in the day. But like you said, the expectations are higher. But look at what they've done. 4 league pennants from 2017 to 2024 and 2 World Series championships in that time span. That is incredible. These kids that have grown up, and you know, if you're a kid out there and you know you were turning 10 or 12 years old in the year 2017, you really have come through a glorious era that was nothing like when you and I were 10 or 12 years old back in the 80s.
No, you're absolutely right, and the sustained excellence, but you have a whole generation that know no different.
Yeah.
Whereas compared to where we had heartbreak with the '86 season, with the Astros and Mets, and then of course the '90s ball clubs winning the division, but falling always short to whether they be the Atlanta Braves or San Diego Padres.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's truly a golden era, and you and I can go on and on and on and on and on and on and on about baseball. That's what we've done. That's what we've been paid to do in the past, and we do it even when we're not recording ourselves. And but I just also want to touch base real quick. The Texans are looking great here in Houston this year. They're 5-1 right now. They're going to play Green Bay this weekend. They've had some injuries. They've sustained, and C.J. Stroud looks like the guy that the Texans have always needed out there on the field.
It's always interesting how things play out, especially like the NFL, to where you can struggle and then the next year make the postseason and maybe make a run in the playoffs, and that's what happened. You know, a couple of years ago, the Texans were just struggling. They had different head coaches, and then they got the right guy in there with DeMeco Ryans. They get a quarterback because the NFL is a quarterback league, and they get C.J. Stroud, and well, they flip the script. They make the playoffs, have a little bit of taste and success last year winning that playoff game, and now the expectations are a little bit higher going for this season. And if they can stay healthy, they can make a nice run and maybe get to that first conference championship in their franchise history.
Boy, I sure would love to see that. The entire city would love to see that if they can make that happen. Certainly a lot of excitement with the Houston Texans.
It would harken back to the old Love You Blue days when this city was turned upside down with Oiler Blue. Yeah,
and you know what? I think this is probably hard for some people to digest, and we're going to wrap it up here in a little bit. But one of the things that I have to say is the Texans have been around since 2002, and this is the year 2024 now. So it's been 22 years that the Texans franchise has been around. It is about time that the Houston fans really start seeing Texan type of excitement, like the way they associate the Love You Blue, and really get into that. The Love You Blue stuff will always be part of Houston, but it's going to be very exciting when this city can get to that conference championship game, win it, go to the Super Bowl, win it. And it would be kind of like when the Astros franchise took that extra step and finally won the World Series. And it validated all of the feelings that the fans had from all those years in the past and all the heartache, but it really took the city to another level. And I think that will happen in this town. Everybody loves the Houston Texans. Everybody's excited about it. But I think if they really do well and they go out to that conference championship game and they get to the Super Bowl this year, it's really going to, I think it might even heal somewhat the feeling of the loss of the Oilers for some people who still feel that way. And I'm not saying that people cannot love the Oilers. They can always love the Oilers because that's part of Houston history. But I think that it would just really take the football scene from an NFL standpoint here in Houston for the fans to another level that they don't even know that exists yet. And it would be just completely exciting.
I'll give you two examples, Mike. When the Astros won that World Series in 2017, it took away a little bit of the sting of that 86 and the 80 and the 86 seasons and the Braves heartbreak losses
and the 80 championship series.
Yeah, the Phillies and the Mets, those series that they had, and then also when the Rockets, going back now 30 years, the Rockets, when they won that first title, for people that were around at that time, and when they won the championship and gave the city of Houston a championship back-to-back, the feeling and joy that we had, that took away a little bit of the sting of the heartbreak of the Astros and the Oilers and the Rockets' failures of the past, and also University of Houston coming up so close by Slamma-Jamma.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? In sports is it's a balance of emotions. It really is. If you're on the flip side, it's a balance of logic and emotion. Keep your head in the game, to slow your game down, to watch the fundamentals, to the consistency, the depth, the health, all of that type of other things that the fans don't really consider, on the other side of the field, the other side of the lines, the side of the court, whatever sport it might be. But speaking of the Rockets, just mentioned the Rockets, they're getting ready to start here pretty soon.
They start on the 23rd. They start the season, and it's going to be a fun, exciting time with the young players that they have had with Jabari Smith, and they're going to be exciting, I think, to watch and maybe even crack the playoffs this season.
Yeah, well, that's good. I would love to see the Rockets back in the playoffs and really get some excitement going on. It's really a nice time to be a Houston fan in general. There's a lot of good things going on, with the exception of the Astros not playing here in October. There's a lot of good Texas high school football taking place this weekend as usual, and I think we're about a month away or so from the playoffs beginning. Is that correct?
Yes, the playoffs start November the 14th, 15th, and 16th.
Yeah.
That'll be the bi-district round, and it'll be 6 weeks of great, exciting football for communities, local communities, and the trip to Arlington will culminate in a state championship at Jerry World in Arlington. And we definitely invite you to listen to us on lsnsports.com.
That's it. Well, thanks for joining us today, Gerald. I appreciate it. Good luck this weekend with all the games that you have broadcast on the Legacy Sports Network. And once again, everybody, it is lsnsports.com. Tell them once again, Gerald, what it is.
lsnsports.com, the Legacy Sports Network, building a legacy one game at a time.
That's right. He's Gerald Sanchez. I'm Mike Acosta. Thanks for joining us. We'll talk to you next time here on Houston City Beat.